It's part 20 of the High Elves Abridged. Last time we did this plan where I tried to get a ceasefire with Isengard by quickly taking a settlement from them first, which actually I think ruined the plan in a confusing twist, and we ended up just grinding through more Isengard field armies. We took a couple of territories, and we've got a setup for Elrond to take a territory soon after he won a recent bridge battle. We've also effectively captured Duneard here. I set up for this siege where there's almost nothing inside. For some reason I didn't attack at first, but now we can, and there we go, the settlement is instantly taken. There are plenty of enemies nearby, so we're going to hang out in the settlement this turn to defend, and see what they do. Once the enemy turn comes about, we see movement all over the place. They're setting up for something near Onodrith in the east. In the west, they're actually making an attack on Lond Angren. Well, they're doing a siege, I should say. Luckily, I thought that might happen, so I've got troops already on the way there, and some of the troops nearby walk off. We get bypassed at Duneard. They're going up towards the classic bridge location. We do have a few troops defending it. And then, my army that I was sending to attack Saruman accidentally ambushes something. This is before, by the way, people had told me that you actually can't win by killing the enemy's faction leader against Isengard. So for the next couple of parts, we're going to be acting under the assumption that you can, because that's how I was playing the game. So in this case, I almost didn't do this ambush because I wanted to just skip it and end the campaign in my turn, but I ended up doing the ambush. As for my plan, I've got almost everything at the back of the enemy column and a couple of units at the front. The guys at the front were only really there to see if they would accidentally kill the enemy captain or something. Very unlikely with horse archers. Meanwhile, we just sit and attack stuff at the back. The issue is that they're kind of getting out of the way, they're running forwards, so I had to rush forwards with my own melee infantry to persuade the enemy to fight me, and soon it's just a fairly messy fight. I don't know for sure, but you would imagine there's some kind of morale debuff the enemy get for fighting in an ambush battle, and maybe there is, because we do see them rout fairly easily as we engage them. So we can break through a blob there, and then the troops freed up can come around to attack other things, and we begin the classic domino effect as we gradually hack through the enemy. This actually isn't quite as good as I thought it would be, because while we're standing there working through the enemy, because we kill them quite slowly, they're killing quite a few of us at the same time. So broadly speaking, while this ambush seemed to be very successful, we routed stuff real fast, we also took about the normal number of casualties. In fact, perhaps it was more than the normal number. We lost the amount of troops we would usually lose when fighting an army that's about 50% bigger than this one. So whether the ambush actually helped, I don't know. Anyway, on to our turn. There's a disease that has killed nobody in Gundabad. It's just something like they're being too sinful, so hopefully they can work on that. And now my main priority was of course to just go and attack Saruman. First I check he's still there at Gyund, and we can go on in and attack him right now because we've got the siege engines to do the assault, and this place is a super low level settlement. Well, it's a city settlement technically, but the actual settlement map is just an encampment like some of the other ones we've seen nearby. So all we need to do is get in there and kill that guy. It almost doesn't matter what else happens, we just need to kill him and then we could withdraw if my killing Saruman plan is going to work, and we know for a fact that it cannot work now in the future, but let's string my past self along. When the battle starts, the enemy send out a bunch of their pure trash to stand outside of their encampment. That's pretty nice because we can get one of these rare moments where our archers actually do just mow things down because these orc fighters and hunters are vulnerable to arrows. So that's all good. We kill them and then make our way inside. On the inside, we're just going to grind against their stuff with no real strategy. I was only interested in fighting Saruman, of course, who is sitting here at the back with his crossbows. Those crossbows are actually pretty good. Kind of looks like they're shooting through a building here. I think the shots are clipping through it a little bit. But they're taking out my decent troops. Those crossbows will be ignoring some of their armor, I guess. So that's dangerous. Annoyingly, my catapults, when I moved them into the town, ended up in the melee because the enemy kind of pushed through. But my ballistas were able to fire, and you can see Saruman's formation, standing in a long column, is extra vulnerable to ballista attacks because there are plenty of bodies for the shots to go through. So we can thin his unit out very effectively in this fashion, and then when there's basically nothing left, we try to kill him with the last of our ammunition, but he and a couple of other guys are lucky enough to survive both that and some regular arrow attacks. ended up sending in those veterans to use their high attack values, hoping they'd take him out. He beat them up a bit with his stick, but eventually we defeat the old white wizard. This isn't going to have the effect I want, but symbolically it's a pretty big victory. The founder of Isengard and the guy holding it all together is out the window. The battle result isn't that good. All those fights we were taking there, I wasn't really trying to outflank or anything, and they didn't go very well, because I figured this would be the end of the campaign, and here's the campaign not ending, so we need to work out what's going on. As someone told me, we have the teutonic system, they called it, meaning effectively any general can just inherit control of the faction. We can't snipe the central dynasty. So here's me looking around, trying to find someone who is marked as the new faction leader or heir. I was not able to find who it was, but there are plenty of generals who can inherit it, so we're actually not close to taking them out by that method. We're going to have to just keep playing the game normally. That means we've got lots more armies to take down, and here is one such army just outside Onodrith standing around. We can attack them with Glorfindel and get a slight advantage, even though it looks like our army is a lot better than theirs. I think the balance bar is being mean. So we'll take them down, and you can see there's already another army just to the left lined up to come in the next turn, so this will just keep happening. This battle went quite well overall. I'm not completely sure why, but the enemy seemed to have lower morale than normal, and you can see an example of this here. This enemy archer unit, when charged by Glorfindel, takes about half casualties and then routs. Normally that just wouldn't happen, but we're seeing routing behaviour more similar to what you'd kind of want it to be like. We can get rid of some of the lower order units by just overwhelming them. And I wonder if it's because Glorfindel might have maximum dread, whatever that stat is, because he's sacked so many settlements and executed so many prisoners. He is now like the most evil person in the world, and that reduces enemy morale by some amount anyway. That might be what's happening here. We take out their captain early on as well, which is great. No idea where he was, but in the general brawl between both sides, things seem to go our way. And with that, we can grind this one to an easy win, and we barely lost any troops to win this battle, which is perfect. Again, just what we need, because these armies out here in the eastern part of our front line really can't be reinforced realistically. They have been reinforced recently by a group that came down from the old Lothlorien capital, so we've got pretty much all we're going to have. What I decided to do is split Glorfindel's army up a bit to send a strike group south towards Edoras, since I had seen it's barely defended. I thought we might be able to snipe that place. We also do have like 2 or 3 units coming down from the north, which are the remnants of our campaign against Gundabad. They've been gradually walking across the map. I had a few spare units, so they'll arrive to reinforce at some point. Now we need to go over here and do this attack with Elrond, which I could have done in the previous turn, but I decided not to because I wanted to get rams so that I could save ammunition on my catapult and ballista to kill enemies, due to the fact this army isn't that good. So we go on in. It's pretty much the same map we were just looking at with Saruman, not much to it. We attacked 2 gates with 2 rams, and in both cases they opened the gates and ran stuff out to attack us. That kind of makes things easy because we can go around them, like right here. We're going to send our best troops behind the enemy general, in fact, and block his escape back into the town. Over at this other gate it's a bit messier because I mainly had archers and our cav here, so I only had a broken up unit of pikes to resist the charge of stuff coming out of the gate. But it worked pretty well since the archers could then cut things down for us over time. We also saw some good ballistering here, where another column formation gives us a nice easy target for cutting down that archer unit. And here in this blob is the enemy general somewhere fighting with all of our good stuff, including Elrond's unit. So this way we're pretty much guaranteed to take out their general, and then we just have to go into the town and finish some stuff off. This did involve quite a lot of using our archers as melee troops due to a lack of actual melee troops. But to be fair, our archers have some melee stats, and they've got a bunch of experience and upgrades, so they might even be comparable to the lower level Uruk troops that we're fighting, especially against those Uruk archers. They're probably much worse. So not too bad overall. We lost about 40 men to take the settlement, and there we go. This is a strategic capture because it's the edge of Isengard. Off to the east now, it's going to be our old allies Mordor, who are respecting the Mordor High Elves pact so far at least. That means with Elrond's army we can now turn back and go to the left, which will make things simpler for us. What I'm going to do is take his best unit, the Mithlond Nobles, and send them towards Onodrith to join the defensive army up there, since that one good unit can probably tank a whole bunch of that incoming enemy army. Meanwhile, most of the other stuff will go on to join this attack group on Edoras to make sure we win, and then we should have enough stuff there to potentially do some attacks along the road towards Helm's Deep as well. On the central front, I was concerned about our bridge defences, because if all that stuff nearby did try to push through, they might actually be able to make it there. We don't have that much stuff, and the army's not very specialised for holding a bridge. Next turn we'll have more stuff reinforcing the area. One solution would be to go back with the army at Duneard and try to do something about the potential invaders, but I was more interested in going forwards to perhaps just strike into enemy territory and see what that does to the AI. So we're able to leave Duneard with basically nothing inside. What I thought is this backup army, it would have been really good if I'd left it behind, because they now could join the bridge defense and make that army very viable. But too bad, I just decided to leave them there and decide what to do with them later. I wanted to make a river crossing and start going south towards Isengard, but it turns out there's a hidden force blocking the other side of the crossing, so we have to fight up the other side. Luckily there's not that much here, it's just a few units. We fire at them with our siege stuff and that makes them run at us, and there a nice bit of friendly fire, a very juicy attack on our own side. That's what we like to see. So now we'll just charge in and attack the enemy with overwhelming numbers. Should be easy enough to win this battle, but there is a unique unit on the field. They've got some of the Nazghai, the upgrade of berserkers, and it appears they can throw grenades, which I didn't know about, even at point blank range while in melee apparently. So that's pretty deadly. They take a while to kill, but there are fortunately not very many of them, so we'll hack our way through them. Soon enough the battle ends, with a result that's actually not that good proportionally if you compare it to some of our other battles. But quite a few of our losses there will have been that big friendly fire blob we did, so it could have been better quite easily. There is a minor engagement at Lond Angren because the army I sent there to relieve the siege does that, but it was really just an auto-resolve, so we kill a bunch of stuff and now that area is secure. So that army can think about going forwards as well now, plenty of targets down to the south they can think about going for. Now for the Isengard turn. Aside from moving about their troops doing nothing in particular, they do have some attacks for us. One of them is here at Karas. This is okay I suppose, because I figured those armies might go for Gwynd and trap my army down there, but because it's been left alone we can freely move it potentially back to Karas or into enemy territory if we need to. The next big move they make is an army goes towards Onodrith. It looked like there it was trying to go south towards Edoras in fact, but it gets stopped by the fact I had guys on the road. No engagement happens, which is perfect, so we'll just see what to do about that later. Then they do have a small army hidden near Duneard it turns out, and they go in to lay siege to it. It's not that much stuff, so we might actually be able to hold that location with only the scraps I have left inside the settlement. But then we do have this battle to deal with. Some of the stuff near the bridge goes over to attack, crucially not all of it, which is handy, but it is the larger part of their force. And as I said before, this army we have isn't that good at defending bridges. The enemy have a commander and they have 2 ballistas, which will help them out. They also have gold experience on a bunch of stuff, meaning it's going to be harder than normal to rout them. And because we don't have much in the way of archers and no siege weapons, there's no massive advantage we get from defending a bridge, but we're going to fight the battle anyway. We'll have to put up with this happening. They've got their 8 ballistas, and they can snipe away at our nice tightly formed up spearmen here. All I can do is try to micro around these shots. We can loosen up, try to be in a more horizontally long line to take fewer through shots, and move backwards and forwards a bit in the hopes that this causes some misses. But all the same, we take a whole bunch of hits early on. About a minute later the next volley comes in, and in comes the troops for the grind. We've got our pikes here blocking the central part of the road, so that should be a nice blocking action, but the other troops will just have to grind in a more conventional fashion, and we'll see. We've got better stats than them, for sure, for the most part anyway, but they've just got absolutely loads of stuff, and with their general in the mix they're unlikely to rout, so we just have to try and get through this without losing everything. And those ballistas aren't helping, they are sniping our best troops away quite quickly. With no catapults shooting juicily into the blob and only 1 unit of archers shooting in there, we're not going to be getting any passive kills as the enemy are stuck at the back of their blob. Meaning this really is just going to be a stats war. There was one strategy I tried, and it's not going very well, as you can see. I thought I might be able to jank some cav through the blob and get onto the other side of the bridge, because then I could at least take out the ballistas and take out some of the weaker arch units and fight them a bit from the other side as well. We got very much bogged down and started getting killed though, so in the end, after a bit of fighting, I pulled those cav out and just waited them at the back. At least I was able to, in some way, by sheer luck I suppose, get the enemy to stop shooting my good stuff and start shooting my weaker Lindar guards instead, who are in a loose formation there. So that's handy. They're totally in range of like my general's cavalry, my captain's cav right next to them, but they're just not going for it, which is handy. I'm trying to use those cav to prevent our guys being rear flanked here. The enemy are folding around us, but it seems because of the passability I can't really counter-fold around them. Giving attack orders makes my guys just plow into the main blob. Their general's there right at the front, so it would be nice to kill him, but I doubt our cav really have the ability to do so. But the guys who might are the ones I left in reserve until this moment. I had my Noldor veterans wait out of the fight for a long time, and when it got to the point when we were about to lose the fight, I threw them in as well. The idea being that the enemy should be now low on stamina. No idea what stamina actually does to the combat mechanics, but this might make our guys who are already very good perform even better. And we do actually, from this point on, start to win the grind. We even get some guys to charge through the now less dense blob and get to the other side, so I'm going to be able to stop those ballistas. They've probably used up most of their ammo at this stage, so it's a bit late, but killing them will help out at least. And yes, the blob fight starts to run down to its conclusion. We've still got no routes, we have precisely 0 prisoners taken, so it has been sheer grind. But yes, the Noldor veterans are pretty good in melee, and they were able to grind through the enemy general's bodyguard with only a small number of casualties. The pike troops did okay as well. We did lose really everything else apart from those 2 units, but we eventually killed that general, and the enemy have seen most of their army killed in the process. We chased down a few routers and end up with this result. We lost about half of our total stuff and a lot of our melee capacity. The kind of proportions here aren't that good. We would have wanted to see about half those casualties, which we probably would have got if we had a full army here, but strategically, holding the bridge might make a difference, because now they can't go on to attack Dunlaric or something, or our half stack behind the bridge. They do, however, have this move to make. The other army that I feared might attack along with the first one comes in and also attacks. We might be able to do something here, but in this situation, holding the bridge would probably mean losing this army for all intents and purposes. So I thought, let's just not hold the bridge. I'd rather just withdraw and try to go and link up with the other army that's somewhere up north of the bridge, and then see what happens afterwards. We give up the bridge, and luckily enough this proves to be a great decision, as the enemy take the bridge and then immediately just walk off it again. So in our turn we're going to come back with more stuff, retake the bridge, and broadly speaking that will have been a strategically successful defensive couple of battles. As for Elrond and the strike against Edoras, it's pretty easy. There's virtually nothing inside, and we can auto-resolve that, gaining us another territory. And at this stage, it's all starting to add up in terms of money. We actually have quite a lot of Isengard's territory, so while they're just spamming stuff at us all the time, it should be slowing down, because a lot of their key money production centres are now under our control. Perhaps that influences this event. I do my usual attempt to get a ceasefire with them, offering them 10 grand in exchange, and they actually take the deal this time, so that's very handy. I didn't really expect it. I was a bit taken aback. I was kind of ready strategically to just keep going with the war, but now the war is suddenly over, and we can use that in various ways. To start with, they had 2 of our settlements under siege, so 2 sieges are ended because of that, a great time in particular to get a ceasefire. And now what we'll want to do is bring together all of our reinforcements, bring down everything we can afford to the front line, and wait for Isengard to go back out of our territory and into theirs. They're all over the place at the moment, so if they concentrate together near Isengard itself, that will just make things easier to manage. We can also watchtower up the whole border, get spies in all of their territory so we can see everything, and occupy key bridges like that one there, which will be handy for when the war starts. The other thing I wanted to do is try and use spies to find who their new faction leader is, and so far that mission has failed. Here's an example of some reinforcements coming down from far away. We can start marching guys from more distant recruitment centres to come and join the front lines. I'm not sure how long a ceasefire is supposed to last in this game. I don't think it actually has a set length. It's just until you decide to start the war again, so we're just taking all the turns we can get. And shortly after, I discovered something that really should have been obvious the whole time. Isengard control the left half of Gondor right now, which means we can actually be attacked through this mountain pass up towards Karis and Gind, meaning I can't really focus everything on trying to pin Isengard's troops around Isengard itself. I do need to pay attention to that direction. Here's something that's been a long time coming. Over the last 10 turns, I've been putting together an all good units army, or a mostly good units army, back west. They've got some ships, so I can start bringing them to the front lines. It's going to take a surprisingly long time to get there. I'm guessing the ships move slower when they're carrying troops or something, because it seems like it's a really long voyage. It only takes a couple of turns to do it without troops. Maybe it's that one different ship I have in the fleet that has less movement or something. So eventually a good army is going to show up, basically. After a few turns, we've reached the limit of our finances, so all the troops we can recruit have been recruited, and they're all moving to join our frontline armies. And it was around this time that I discovered their new faction leader. It's this Lord Nufel guy sitting in Anor Londo, and he's actually in the Gondor area. So in terms of my plan to take out Isengard by killing their faction leader, that made attacking this area suddenly seem a lot more interesting. Of course, while playing, I still didn't know that this actually can't really work. But you'll see we are going to have an undue focus on trying to go down there to assassinate that guy once the war starts. And the war restarting is going to happen very soon. We'll cover that and more in the next part.